I'm Mary Valamides, and I'm going to share with you the review for 2016 STAAR Math Test for Grade 3. Now, while you're watching this video at any time, you can double-click on the icon to make the screen larger so you can see the items on the screen better. Press pause at the bottom of the screen at any time if you want to read over the item, and press play when you're ready to begin again. You can download the attachments so that it would be easier for you to refer to as we're going through the PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint will be posted for you to revisit at your own convenience. So agenda. We're going to go over the format of the items, the format of the answer choices, the highest scoring items, the lowest scoring items, the nuances of the test for all the grades, and the items to notice for all grades. And throughout this, I'll be asking you, what is the impact on instruction? So a couple of things to make sure that you have is either the scope and sequence or this document, which basically is a one-pager of all the text for Grade 3. You also should have the Grade 3 STAAR test. Here is a heat map. This heat map shows you the district results. The very first column shows you the scores that we had in 2015 per SE. And then the second column shows you the scores for 2016 STAAR test. Of course, the 2016 STAAR test is the only thing we can really look at. 2015, they only released sample items, so we don't have the actual item that you see tested. You can see that we're still struggling with this readiness standard of 3.5B, it's deep red, but we have made some progress. Now, we have made better progress with 3.6C as we've gone from orange to white, and 3.4A, so we've gone from 64 to 66. Anytime, and over here we have the supporting standards, and anytime you see NT slanted like this, it means it wasn't tested on that particular test. And over here on the far right, you'll see a couple of texts that will never be tested. You should also have a copy of the STAAR item analysis that we took. Basically, it breaks down all of your SEs, and they have it by item, as well as how we did as a district. And then going across, you can find your campus to see how you may have done on that particular item. You also have the district item analysis, which shows you, for example, on number 1, it was in reporting category 1. The main content SE was 3.3A. It is a supporting standard because there's an S next to it. And then you see the process standards that it also covered. Anything in green would be the correct answer. And then you can see the percentage of children that chose B, C, or D. Notice C was the most often chosen wrong answer. So you might want to look at that to see what was the distractor in that. Also, the very, very last row will show you the percentage of students that didn't even answer the question. They didn't even try to guess. So the reporting categories, we're going to take a closer look at the reporting categories. Look at reporting category 1. The kids scored 73% mastery. Reporting category 2, 68% mastery. 3, 71% mastery. And 4, 70% mastery. This is pretty tight, which is exactly the way we like to see it. Now we're going to talk about the format of the items. So we're not looking at the answer choices, just the questioning part of it. There are 5 basic types. You have number 1, just the question, nothing else. Number 2, a narrative, and then some form of numbers such as equations or expressions, and then the question. Number 3 would be just a narrative and a question. This may or may not have a break in between, it may just be in one paragraph. Number 4 would be a narrative, a question, and then a second narrative, so that you'd have a narrative, a break, a question, break, and another narrative. Or it could be a narrative, a break, a narrative, a break, and then a question. Number 5 would be a narrative. You would have a visual. There's a break after the narrative, there's a visual. Visual could be tables, graphs, diagrams, anything of that sort. And then you would have a narrative after that, or a question. So basically what you need to remember is that you will have just a plain question, or you may have equations and expressions, just have a narrative and a question, have 2 narratives, or have visuals. This is the breakdown. You should have a sheet of paper that gives this breakdown for you. So what we're going to do now is just label a few of these items so that we can see what do we have most often on our test. So we're going to look at each problem in the question, and we're not going to look at the answer choices. And we're going to classify the problem as being one of the following types of questions, which is the ones that we just talked about. So number 2, look at just the format of this question. What do you notice? So which one of the items do you think it would be? It's just a question. If we cover up all the answer choices, we'll see that it's only asking a question. Look at this item. In this one, you have a narrative, and then an expression, and then the question. So this would be a narrative, numbers, equations, or expressions, and then the question. Number 5. Notice we have a narrative, and then we have a question. So this is a narrative and then a question. Number 9. We have a narrative, a break, another narrative, a break, and then a question. So this is a narrative, and a question. Number 3, we have a narrative, a visual, and then a question. So this is narrative, visuals, question. Notice the visual could be a number line, a diagram, anything of that sort. So after looking at these 5 basic types, now I'd like to show you how we scored with reporting categories based on those format of items. So looking at number 1, question, there were 3 items, which is only 6.5% of the test. Number 2, numbers, equations, and expressions, there were 3 items, which is 6.5% of the test. Number 3, narrative and question, there were 16 items, so that's 35% of the test. That's a big hunk of the test. Number 4, narrative, question, narrative, there were 6 questions, which was 13% of the test. But look at visuals. Visuals, diagrams, tables, and graphs, there were 18 questions. That was the most. That was 39% of the test. So think about how you're giving the format of your questioning that you're doing with the kids, whether it's a cognitive formative assessment or whatever type of test, a 6 weeks test or 1 weekly test. Think about what type of questions you're asking, because we need a variety with a little bit more visuals possibly. So format for answer choices. We just talked about the questions. What about the answer choices? What do they look like? Well, they can be numeric, which would be just numbers with units, or fractions. It can be algebraic. If it's algebraic, it's going to have operational signs, like a plus sign, minus sign, division, equal sign, multiplication sign. These are usually expressions and equations. Number 3, there would be some kind of visual, again, a diagram, a table, number line. It could be number 4, readable, or it could be number 5, verbal. And if it's verbal, it will either have a sentence, a phrase, or just a few words. So looking at just these answer choices, nothing else, think to yourself, what is that? What kind of item would that be? Algebraic, because we do have those different signs, those operational signs. Number 39. This is numeric. I know it says square feet, but we're not going to look at that because that's not the important part of this answer choice. What's important are the numbers. So this is numeric. Number 30. This might seem confusing at first because you probably see numbers, but this is a visual because we have a table in this particular answer choice. Number 23. Look at number 23 carefully at the very bottom. It says record your answer answering, fill in the bubbles on your answer document. Be sure to use the correct place value. This one is a griddable. So this is a different type of griddable because you notice right here in the middle of the paper or the question, it has a graph, which is unusual. We don't see an item like that in the past. Look at number 34. If you guessed verbal, you're correct because we have complete sentences here at the bottom as your answer choices. So what are the results of our answer choices? So think to yourself, try to predict. Which do you think appears more often on our STAAR test that we took in 2016? Now that you made your guess, let's look at the results. Numeric, 35% of the test. Algebraic, 9%. Griddable, 6%. Verbal, 28%. And visual, 22%. So notice it was heavy on numeric, verbal, the kids have to explain, or the visual. There will always be just 3 grades on the test. So what is the impact on instruction with these results? If you're thinking you need a variety of answer choices, you're right, you're spot on. You have this handout that should be online for you to get. Please notice that anything that's pink or salmon, that's reporting category 1. Anything that's blue is reporting category 2. You have different colors. I think you have mustard for reporting category 3, and then it's a green color at the bottom for reporting category 4. So that will tell you the reporting categories. The very first column has an item number. You have the reporting categories, whether it's a readiness or supporting standard. The SC, the content SC that was tested, the process SCs that were tested, and then the answer to that item. Next, you have the performance, what is our met standard percentage. Notice that 87 is green, that is good. We have rating out of 46 items. This is the 43rd item, the one we're looking at, the highest scoring item. Notice 45 is right here, so that is the next to the highest scoring item. And then if you look further down the sheet, you'll find 46, which was the highest scoring item. Then again, anything red would be our lowest scoring items. So number 45 was the lowest scoring item with 43% mastery. Now, we just talked about the item format, and here I've provided basically an index for you so you can see if it's a narrative, visual, question, then it would be an NVQ. Then you also have the answer format listed. So you know if it's numeric, visual, verbal, algebraic, so that's there for you as well. So when you're ready to teach this particular SE, you can find your SE that you're looking for and see what type of format is possibly used in 2016. Now let's look at the highest scoring items per reporting category. Numerical representation relationships had 12 questions. This is reporting category 1. It had the second highest scoring item on the test. I want you to just quickly look at these items and see what you find in common with these items. For computations and algebraic relationships, reporting category 2, 18 questions. Again, we're looking at what are we seeing that's in common with these highest scoring items. Geometry and measurement was reporting category 3. We had 12 questions. And then data analysis and personal financial literacy, reporting category 4, we had 6 questions. And by the way, anything highlighted yellow is a readiness standard on the far right, as well as all the SEs that are in that particular category. Now this item was a basic representation of what's on the frequency table to what is on the dot plot. So what did you notice about those highest scoring items? Most of the items were one-step problems. The visuals were easy to understand and to apply, the answer choices were short, and the question stem was not very wordy. So basically, these were more simpler problems. Let's look at the lowest scoring items per reporting category. See what you notice about these items. Again, reporting category 1. This was the lowest scoring item on the test. Computations and algebraic relationships, reporting category 2. Yes, these are all reporting category 2. Okay, geometry and measurement, reporting category 3. On this particular one, notice the importance of the vocabulary. And then reporting category 4. So what did you notice about the lowest scoring items? If you like to pause and look back over them more slowly, you can. And when you look at them, notice that most of these items are multi-step problems. The visuals were really critical to the answer. They aided in helping to find the answers because they were multi-choice, multi-step problems. The vocabulary was critical in most cases, and the question stems were a little bit more wordy than you saw earlier with the higher scoring items. So what's the impact on instruction? It's really important to try to use UPS check whenever you're solving problems with the kids. It's not as important to put the little different pieces in the boxes as it is to do the critical thinking with the kids. Making sure that you ask, what do I need to find? So the kids know how to do that. Other ways we can improve: make sure we have a good cognitive alignment. Pay special attention to the verbs and make sure that the activities you do really match what the text is saying. Vocabulary is critical. Have your word wall and use your word wall. Teach vocabulary, but also refer to it as you're going over your lesson. Assessment. You know, I was at a training the other day and they said to raise your scores by 40% in just 9 weeks, give open-ended questions to your students instead of multi-choice items. That makes them think, and that helps them internalize what they're learning. So even if it's an exit ticket out where you have 2 questions and the kids have to answer it in words, then the kids will better internalize what they learned that day. Lowest scoring concepts. If you file review those in workstations, like the items you just saw, have the kids work with these after you taught them and keep them fresh on their minds. Computation is so important. Some of these items that the kids missed was based on computation issues. So review those basic facts regularly with the kids. Have a fluency station. And problem solving, again, use UPS check. Now, earlier I said have a fluency station. Don't forget you have this in Eduforia, which tells you per grade level, like here's grade 3, what they are supposed to have mastered by each of these 9 weeks that's listed at the top. This is in Eduforia. It's also in Canvas. Questions from the STAAR test. When you get a moment, look over this handout and notice these are all the question stems that were on the STAAR test. And you can see which ones start with what. How many start with how. Which ones are begin with the most, which word starts the most of the sentences, the questions, I'm sorry. So all these items are now sorted for you by the first word in each of the questions. You'll notice again, these reporting category colors are the same. Salmon is reporting category 1, blue is reporting category 2, mustard is 3, and green is reporting category 4. You'll have the supporting and readiness standards here. As you can see, the question how, there's more readiness standards that had that type of question for reporting category 2. So mostly reporting category 2 had the how questions. So look to see what kind of questions are we getting from each reporting category. Or does a supporting or readiness standard seem to favor that type of question? So these are some questions you can think about. Some nuances of the test, not. Yes, not was used on the test. Notice which is not a method Jacker can use to get the correct answer. So we do have visuals, but not is bolded. It is not capitalized any longer. These are other items. This one was particularly interesting because it not only had not, but we had several answer choices as a possibility. This version of testing was once just done in high school, but notice we have it now in third grade. So these various answer choices that you just saw, we need to make sure we're covering problems like that with our kids. Notice this item on number 44 as well. And this is mainly in geometry. The problems seem to be more rigorous. As you can see here, the kids have to do multi-step problems, but then also create a problem possibly, or a number. Here we have which expression represents the number 867. Notice that the kids have to break the numbers apart. They decompose these numbers to find one that would match with 867. Not here was one of the answer choices that was given to us. So if you notice number 31, we had not here listed at the very bottom. Gridded items, we had gridded items that were normal looking, but yet we had some like this, where the kids had to figure out the pictorial model to be able to answer the question. Or answer the graph that's multi-step, and that each symbol stands for more than one to be able to answer the griddable question. Now, this is a little confusing for the kids because it is more open response, which that's why we need to get away from doing multi-choice items as much as possible in the classroom. But also notice that the kids may have trouble just with gridding an item. So there are grids available for you in Eduphoria. If you go into your grade level to State Assessment Information, you'll see the STAAR practice quiz for grade 3. Then you'll click the attachment, and then this sheet will come up. So that these can be copies of grids where you can use your snippet tool and snip them out and use them with your test that you make so the kids can practice creating responses. Here are some items I'd like for you just to notice. For example, this item, the kids are finding two sections that are quadrilaterals. So they really need to know that term quadrilateral and be able to do two sections. Also notice that we have more bulleted items in our second narrative. This was very obvious in all 3 grade levels. Use your UPS check closed reading strategies. When you do a UPS check, you can use closed reading strategies to underline important words. I wouldn't highlight the question or underline the entire question, just the important words that you would need to use to be able to solve the problem. So we can use annotation from our closed reading strategies to help us with UPS check when we're trying to do the first step of understanding what the question is, what I need to find. You can see here that you could also use it for this particular problem. Number lines were used in this test. You notice there's different forms of number lines, so make sure the kids are exposed to all of these. And whenever you have them connecting, such as the very first two, notice we're adding. But then when we're going in one direction and then we turn around and go the opposite direction, we're subtracting. Now, this was interesting that there was a 2-digit times a 1-digit item in the test. Please use your reference chart. If the kids had the reference chart and were able to use it on this test, they have the availability to it. But if they used it, they could easily see that only one answer choice was a possibility. As you can see panels on this grid, on this reference chart. Tables. There were lots of tables as always on third grade test. The vocabulary was very important to be able to find the correct answer. Now, if you're thinking about using this test as a possible mock test, just be aware that there are 14 essays that were not tested on this test. So that's 32% of our student expectations were not tested. So you might want to think of doing something for these particular essays. And of course we have these two that didn't count with those 14 that will never be tested. So lesson plan design, as you design your lessons, effectively align the text to the depth, the thinking verb, and the complexity, the concepts, the context, and the academic vocabulary of STAAR without multiple choice practice or test taking strategies. So some reminders: use your reference charts in your classroom. Use centimeter grid paper. Remember, you have those boards that you can use with the kids, those gridded boards that are centimeter on one side and blank on the other side. Use griddable items. Make sure you refer to your UPS check posters. Maybe even give the kids a copy of the poster and the strategies poster. Refer to the strategies poster whenever that you're going through problems with the kids. Refer to your vocabulary word wall often and do activities with them. And teach using manipulatives so the kids can learn conceptually first. I'm Mary Bellamides. Thank you for listening to Grade 3 STAAR Testing. If you have any questions, please call me or email me. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Have a good day.